Oh, hold on a minute. I think I messed up on I've gotta get everything in order. I think Rumble I messed up on. Let me double check here real quick. And submit. Oh, really? Yeah, I had it sitting too long. Once I do that, then I've got to go in and do it all again. Now, let me see here. Everything else is going. I'm running a little bit late, guys. Sorry about that. First of all, I've got to get back into the habit of doing all this, but I am going to be set up. If anybody wants to join me. Oh, really? If anybody wants to join me, they can on Skype. That's the only place I'm going to be opening VoIPs up at the moment. But if you want to come in, you're more than welcome to. No. I was going to stop that. Okay, create broadcast. Alright, so now I've got X running. No. Audio looks good. Live stream is up on YouTube. Now, audio sounds good. I'm on Odyssey 2, and I'm waiting now to see if it kicks in. I might have to hit refresh on it. Yeah, that's what I had to do. Kicks in. Now I do want to say thank you to what I had to do. And Twitch has a good one too. I want to say thanks to Mark Wojcicek from Pregus Production, or however you say that name. He's the one who helped me set up a audio visualizer for live stream, and I am really thankful for that. That's a big deal for me. So with that, I want to say thank you, and also it's time for me to start this up on Rumble. I can't believe it. Let's see if okay, I see what it was. I didn't even get the configurations put in. Yeah, I'm an idiot. So let me get this all set up, and we will have it ready to go here in a second. I can't believe I forgot to do this. Alright. I was an old pro at this freaking 2-3 months ago. Took my break, and now I can't do nothing. I'm worthless. Okay, hit start stream, and it should be ready to go. It's just a worthless old man. Let's see what's happening. It says it's streaming on Rumble, but sometimes I gotta hit refresh a couple times before it kicks in. Yeah. There we go. Okay, good. Yeah. There we go. Yeah, okay, Rumble's audio sounds good. We are up and running. Now today is going to be the first of my second season for my writing for the Storyteller. So this one isn't really too action-packed. I don't expect anybody to be really interested in it. This is sort of something that I do for myself. I did it last year with Karma Love, and this year I don't have her with me, but I'm still going to continue to do it. So we have that going. I got my coffee, did my smoke break, and now I'm going to get set up and ready to go. First gotta take a drink of coffee. Now I'm gonna do a countdown and hit record because I do record my streams, just so you guys know. And this is the first time I'm using the audio visualizer, and I wanted everybody to know that too. So I actually had some good stuff happen today on YouTube. I got a comment from a relative, somebody who I did some of their stories on, and I thought that was pretty good. With that, I want to say hi to Miss Aries 23 on YouTube and say thank you for the comment. She is the granddaughter of Duncan, I believe it is. Yeah, Duncan Williamson. So with that, I do want to say freaking thank you for leaving the comment, and I really enjoyed everything that I did narrate of his. So with that, I'm just going to say thank you. If there's anything that I can do more of his stuff that you'd want me to do, just feel free to leave it in the comment sections, and I will do it, because I've got a lot of respect for the guy. He has a lot of good stuff. So with that, I am going to go ahead and get my show going. I'll do my countdown and say, and we'll go from there. You know what I mean? Get this stuff set up and going. I'm gonna go ahead and open up my YouTube studio so that I can get everything straightened out and go from there. That way I know exactly what it is. Alright, so here we go. 3, 2, 1, now. Hello everybody, and welcome back to the Storyteller. I'm Roger Hanson, and this is the first video for the second season of the Storyteller live stream. Today I am going to continue where I left off from last season. Now, I did do some live streams on different writers and everything, which I did get positive feedback on, and I mentioned before the recording started, and I gave thanks to Miss Aries 23, who is the granddaughter of Duncan Williamson. And I did some stuff on here with his writing, and I wanted to say thank you for your comment, and it was a privilege doing the narration and everything that I did. I left a message. If there's anything that I could possibly do, like write or do more narrations on the stories, whatever, feel free to leave me a message in the comment sections. I'm also on Skype. I have a group set up called the Storyteller, so you can join me there. I'm on minds.com as well as Roger_Hanson, so feel free to hit me up on those locations. Plus I'm on YouTube, Odyssey, Rumble. I'm also on X as Infamous, and Discord as well, so feel free to contact me in any of those locations. I've pretty much been streaming everywhere for the last year or so, and thank you very much for the feedback. That really helps me out, because this is one of my smaller channels, and like last year, what I had said, I'm doing this for myself. You know what I mean? I don't expect too many people to get excited because I'm getting on here talking about writing. So I already understand that, and I know that's probably going to be the way it is. So I have no problem with that, and the reason why I have no problem with it is because I'm doing this for myself. I've always loved writing. I've loved writing since I was a kid, and here lately I haven't really had a chance to do writing because I've been caught up in live streaming and doing stuff with computer graphics and things of that nature, and not really able to get into much writing, just sitting down and writing a story. So last year I started doing this. I came up with a live stream where I would go through and create a short story. And one thing I wanted to do, which I'm still doing now, is I wanted to do, well, two things I wanted to do was I wanted to write short stories, because that's one of the biggest problems I had, or I have still. Now, I'm one of those guys where if you ask me to write a story that's 300 pages long, I can write a 300-page story, 600 page, it doesn't matter. I mean, I can do it. I love it because I love writing. But the one thing that I had a real hard time with was writing a short story. And the reason for that was because I couldn't compact it and get the story to where it was short, you know what I mean? Maybe 10, 11 pages long, if that. And that was always a problem I had. So when I started doing stuff last year, that's what I wanted first off do, is get into trying to write short stories instead of long stories, and do something with that. And that's where it took off. I went through and started working on a story, or a series that I've been working on. It's called Clash. And the first short story was about a character by the name of Zuthra, and I went through last year and did the plot, explained the plot for it. I also do I kind of do things different than what a lot of people do, because besides doing plot, doing plot now, which I've always done this before, I'd always make an outline of my story, and when I do my outline, it's kind of like whenever college students are writing a thesis or an essay, you know what I mean? I come up with a topic, and then I start breaking down that topic into different sections and things like that. So that's one thing that I did last year, and I've always been comfortable with doing that. And I mean, when I say always, I'm talking about like when I was a little kid in like junior high, always, so I've always been really good at writing, from what everybody tells me. It's been something, this is probably the only thing that I've ever really been good at, to be honest with you. I love to write it. So that is basically what I did with my with my streams. I went through and I talked about the plot, and then I did the outline, and I started putting it together and creating this story of Zuthra. And it really took off in my imagination. It got me going on this story, and from there I am moving on to this one. Now, in last year's story, it was about Zuthra, like I said before, and one thing that I did want to do is go back through and kind of hit upon some of the stuff that I had done in the old, or in last year's short story, and that way we can kind of catch up on some of the stuff that I need to go forward with now. You know what I mean? So, like I said, I did my outlines, my plots. Now, my plot last year I did according to the Save the Cat beat sheet, and I've kind of stuck with it too, but I've changed it around a little bit in my my plot, so it's not as cool as what that Save the Cat beat sheet is, but I'm finding out that it's a little bit more simpler. It's not as complicated. It does have the same kind of outline, don't get me wrong. It's just there's some things that I don't have to do, like theme stated and things of that nature. That's something I found out that really wasn't necessary. So I decided that I was going to cut that out, you know what I mean? Now, what I did is I started out with Lycia, or Lycia, however you want to pronounce it. I'm kind of iffy on how I want to name it, because like Lycian or Lycian with the name of it is either way. But I went through and I set up my own outline for it, and I started out where Zuthra actually is the main character of the story, okay? And it opens up with the opening image, and I made it one page, which I'm going to break this down into pages to where I can keep it straight. And then I kind of described Lycia and what it is all about with, and I made it according to the outline to where people knew, or to where I knew what order I wanted it in, you know what I'm saying? So I did do that, and whenever I did the outline for it, I started out describing Lycia, like I said, and here, I'll pull this up, that way I can kind of go over it and look at it before I start jabbering. And how I started it was I went over the Overking Zuthra, which that's what I called him. I called him an Overking. And the opening scene starts out with Zuthra sitting on his throne, and I explained that the throne was set up on a dais, and it was surrounded by pillars that stretched high up into the ceiling. And I described this this throne room, which is named the Divine Throne Room. Okay, and after that, I went into describing the known planes of existence, which there's only 6 known planes of existence in this story, and that's the higher planes of Lycia, the planes of Proteon, the cardinal planes, the Orphidian plane, the Serpentine plane, and then the Saurian plane. And that's what I did there. Then I had to do this theme stated, and that's what I took out this time, or I'm taking out this time. In that one, they had me have like some random guy freaking make a statement in the story about the theme, what the theme of the story is, and I found out that that's not really necessary, so I decided to take it out. Now, in the first one, I made the theme stated the act of providence is knowing of things to come before they happen, which is cool, I do like that, but I'm not going to do that in this one. Now, how I did that one was there was a group of priests that were around him, like magical priests, I guess you could say, and every hour or so, I believe, according to the story, this guy would come out and he would say something, you know what I mean? I forgot how I said it exactly, but he out of nowhere said this, and it stuck into the story at that time. Now, after that, I started talking about Zuthra and his relationship with his wives and how he ended up marrying them, and how he ended up marrying him was through what they called the Great Seduction. So basically, he would seduce his wives into marriage. You know what I'm saying? And I know that sounds weird and everything, but the reason why I did that was because I'm trying to put together aspects of research that I've done for this story, and that part kind of goes into the ancient Sumerian lore, where it talks about Enlil and how he ended up seducing his wife, and who he ended up marrying, and I incorporated that into the story. So that is where that comes from, just so you guys know. But anyhow, I went into that to where I started talking about that, and I also went through and I discussed this divine throne room, the throne, the dais, the pillars, and then he had a pool of visions that was down under the dais, which he would walk down to, and he would look into this pool of visions, and he would see things, you know what I mean? And when he did, all of these priests that were around him would come together with him, and they would hold hands, and energy would be released, you know what I mean? And it's pretty cool. I actually got that finished, but that's basically the gist of it. That's how I did the opening image. That's the first image that you see when the story starts, and that's how I set that up. Then I went into the second part, which is called the setup. Now, with that one, I did 1 3/5. It was like 1 3/5 of a page long, because I think I might have went to 2 pages. I'm not quite sure. But I ended up doing that, and that's where, after I was talking about the throne room, I started describing, the known planes of existence, and I started getting deeper into the Great Seduction and consummating the marriages. He ended up having three wives, maybe 4 wives, and then I started explaining why he was doing this. It's the responsibility of the Overking of Lycia to preserve the bloodline, the royal bloodline, and in order to do that, his job is to pick out his wives, and then he has to consummate the marriage. Now, he can do this in a lot of ways. It doesn't have to be like physical contact, like sex or anything of that nature. He can do it telepathically and stuff, because he's got these abilities and things. Like, he can impregnate a woman by just thinking of it, or he could impregnate her in a dream, things of that nature. So then he had 3 wives, is what it was, and their names was Alubu, Sinti, and Tiana, I believe. That was the only 3 of them that I had. Now, Tiana is the story that I'm getting into now, because it's actually going to start getting interesting at this point. And last year, when I ended that story, I wanted to just go on to the Draco, because you have humans and then you have Draco, and humans were in the higher planes of existence, which was Lycia, and then the Draco were down in the lower planes of existence, the darker planes. So you had the darker planes of down in the bottom, and then the plains of light, which was Lycia, above it. And I wanted to go from Zuthra's story to the Draco's stories with a character that I created called Obtu. But instead, I decided that I wanted to continue with Tiana's story, because last year I was having a hard time trying to fit her into the story. Her character didn't match up with what I felt the story should be, and as time went on and I was writing about it, the story kind of evolved, basically, you know what I mean, and it became its own creature, which I thought was pretty cool. And this year I've rethought about it, and instead of going straight into the Draco and starting to explain it, I'm going to explain Tiana. And the thing that motivated me to do that is because last year when I was doing these streams, my partner Karma, who was on the shows with me, got really excited about this character. You know what I mean? She really liked her. So, and see, each of the wives had different characteristics. Now, Alubu, she was more of like a, well, if you want to check it out, just go ahead, or maybe I'll actually read the story. But Aluvus and Sinti had different characteristics from Tiana. Now, she was vicious, okay? She came from a society that freaking that was female dominant, you know what I mean? And when it comes to their men, they used them as slaves, and they used them as cannon fodder in battle. And if they didn't have any use for them there or working in the mines as slaves, then freaking they would take pleasure out of torturing them to death. You know what I mean? That's just how brutal this woman and her society was. So, it became a very interesting story to have to cover, and as time went by, her character began to develop. Not only her character, but her upbringing and the society that she was raised in and things of that nature. So I ended up going ahead and deciding that I'm going to do my next short story on her as the wife of Zuthra and the things that took place there. In the last story, she ends up betraying Zuthra for the Draco, and I want to go off of that and dive a little deeper in there. Now, for me, I need to kind of get into it a little bit. I could pull up the story actually and just kind of read the last short story, and I could do that. I'll go and read the story for you. That way you kind of get an idea of what has already taken place. Now, actually, I thought I had a PDF of it or something like that made. Yeah, here it is. Now I can pull it up. I'll read the story to you. That way you guys can kind of get an idea of where it came from and the story that comes before it. And it'll help fill up this time so that I can cover at least an hour. So here goes. Within the land of a far-off place, Lycia is a kingdom that spans three spheres of the unknown plains. Within it are streets of jeweled splendor and golden sunshine. These are not only lands of Lycia, though. There are many... these are not the only lands of Lycia, though, there are many diverse environments, cultures, and civilizations that dwell here. Among the different planes of existence, lands that are unforgiving, primal, and filled with wild beasts, jungles that reach up to the sky, can take a person without ever leaving a trace that person ever of that person ever being there. Planets so unforgiving the ground itself has the power to kill. Within the center of the divine throne room, a throne sits upon a dais. The dais rises about 2 feet above the floor, and each side of the dais has steps that lead up onto it. Transparent crystals were used in order to create most of the things within this throne room, making the environment bright and full of reflections. Pillars stretched high within the room to a ceiling that is so high it can barely be seen. Rumors have it that these pillars don't even connect to the ceiling, and their mysteries are but a wonder. They too cast off reflections of a mystical blue aura of beauty. Strange symbols are carved into these pillars, and the dais is as well. Energy flows along the surface of these pillars, swaying like snakes swimming upon the surface of a stream. The bright reflective glow of the throne, dais, and divine pillars cast off the walls and down onto the mysterious pool of visions below. Visions bounce in and out within the waters of this mystical pool. A blue aura hangs over it, and the water itself never sits still, as if it is boiling in low temperatures. The water itself, though, isn't cool at all. Still, it produces a mist that rises above itself into the divine throne room above. As energy springs up from the mystical pool of visions, an astute, discerned watcher stands above it, staring down into its magical waters, watching the visions as they pass in and out, as if he is watching and deciphering those visions as they happen, harnessing the great secrets that this pool brings by deciphering its hidden messages. His name is Zuthra, and he is known as the Overking of Lycia. Zuthra's eyes glow a bright blue, with a gleaming transparent tiara upon his head. His long curly hair and a matching beard hang down past his shoulders and chest. As Overking, it is his responsibility to secure the future of his bloodline. That is his utmost responsibility above all others. Even more important than the responsibility of being the Overking. Seclusion is the only life that the Overking knows. He must live his life alone, so seduction is part of the role he must play. Energy spills upward out of the pool of visions as Zuthra raises his arms into the air. This energy flows through his body as Zuthra closes his eyes and visions of the past enter his mind. The pillars begin to glow as priests dressed in shrouded cloaks gather around him. Zuthra places his hands into the water of the mystical pool of visions and opens his eyes as he raises his arms into the air. Lowering his arms, Zuthra takes the hand of one of the priests standing beside him. They are all now circling the pool. These memories seem to transfer between them like a conduit transferring energy from its source to its outlet. Afterwards, the priests return to the corner within the throne room, and this ritual is then repeated over again. When Zuthra raises and lowers his arms. At the end of each ceremony, A priest will then announce in a loud voice that is heard across the entire throne room. The act of providence is knowing of things to come before they happen. And that right there is the theme stated that I was talking about. All intelligent beings live within the known planes of existence, and there are 6 known realms within these planes. The first 3 are ruled by Lycia and are called the higher heavens of Lycia, Protean, in the cardinal realm. Then there are the 3 darker realms ruled by the Draco, a reptilian race of beings. These are the Orphidian, Serpentine, and Saurian realms. There is a lot of diversity throughout all of these realms, with many environments, cultures, civilizations, and beasts that run wild within them. Within these cultures and civilizations, some people live basic lives day to day, while others travel the stars. Some travel between the realms, while others know nothing outside their own world. Some realms are uncivilized, primal, and filled with every kind of crawling thing, but some are more civilized. Tribal beings are spread within every realm, culture, and civilization abroad. Civilizations travel the stars and have advanced civilizations. I messed that up. Civilizations travel the stars and have advanced civilizations are everywhere too. I need to fix that. Some with a moral outlook on things, while others can travel the stars and have advanced technologies, but have no values for life. Some with a moral outlook on things, while others can travel the stars and have advanced technologies, but have no value for life. Dominant species within Lycia are humans, while the dominant species within Draco are the Draconians, of course. Slavery is practiced throughout all of the realms except for the higher heavens of Lycia. Not every culture and civilization within each of the realms practice the use of slaves, though, and are against it. Others destroy cities and villages for the single purpose of collecting slaves. It is the survival of the fittest, and only the strong shall survive in unforgiving and barren environments that are able to kill. Just as much cruelty is committed by humans as well as by the Draco. The Great Seduction is the esoteric teachings handed down through generations of overkings. It can be performed while the target is asleep, awake, in the real world, or in some illusionary world created by the overking. Survival of his bloodline is the most important thing to an overking. One of many who came one of many who came before him, each responsible for finding wives, performing the great seduction, and consecrating their marriage to them through impregnation. And that's what I'm talking about. Memories of consummating his marriage with Ilubu entered Zuthra's mind. He would watch her through the pull of visions and thought she was the beautifulest creature that he had ever seen. His desire to have her overtook him, and he committed the great seduction, making her his wife. Zuthra waited until she fell asleep, and he visited her in a dream. Ilubu was from the plains of Protean, and on an unforgiving planet called Lucius, and was a Cistercian maiden who survived in the tunnels below her planet's surface. Her desires were simple. She was only interested in the sight of a beautiful masculine man, one with the eyes that would hypnotize her and the hands that would caress her with ecstasy. Zuthra was exactly what Aluvu desired, so seducing her wasn't too hard. Memories of seducing another wife, Senti, a sentinel huntress who lived among the wild, entered Zuthra's mind. She was a huntress, and because of her desire for the hunt, Zuthra was able to seduce her. Zuthra came to her in a dream, taunting her with visions of a beautiful beast. In the distance, she glanced the most beautiful beast that she had ever seen. She raised her bow and aimed straight, then let go of the quiver, only to miss the target. Her blood began to boil. She did not like missing her target. She followed her prey, and when the sun began to fall, she laid under a tree to rest because the weather was beautiful that day. She was tempted by a dream that Zuthra implanted within her mind, until finally she was impregnated by Zuthra, and through consummation she became his wife. Zuthra remembers how hypnotic she was, with her slim but muscular body. Her hair was a bright golden blonde, and she had glowing blue eyes. Memories of seducing Tiana, his third wife, entered Zuthra's mind. She was the ruthless one among them, but beautiful nonetheless. Every night she would sleep over a torture chamber as her slaves were beaten to death. She enjoyed the sound of them begging for mercy. Zuthra seduced her out of bloodlust, disguising himself as her slave, as she tortured him out of bloodlust. Her desires grew, and she was seduced by Zuthra. He impregnated her as well, making her his third wife. Imams were responsible for ruling in the Overking's place when he wasn't there to rule himself. Eventually, mistrust among the people, with whispers of draconian infiltrators influencing the Imams, began to emerge. Zuthra, aware of the rumors, investigated and found to his dismay that some of the rumors were correct. Dealing in illegal trade and emergence of a drug created by the Draco called Soma quickly spread across the realms. Eventually, the only responsibilities of the Imams consisted of trade negotiations with the merchants. By the time this took place, though, the merchants were already being influenced by the Draco, conspiring with them in illegal trade. Merchants and warlords are never to be trusted. Unethical dealings among each other in slave trading and illegal dealings with the Draco. The merchant class is built up with their own federation, dictating to the people who they can do trade with and who they can't. In order for its citizens to do any trade, Lycia has to trade within these federations and no one else. This is proclaimed by law. While enforcing trade agreements, these same people deal with the warlords who travel freely within the realms, plundering citizens and taking slaves for trade, forcing citizens to pay tribute for protection. Warlords make big profit off of being the middleman between the merchants and the Draco too, trading in slaves and genetic research material. In these lands, most of its people didn't see good or evil, and right or wrong. The ones who did believe in something, though, believed in darkness and light. They believed that there was also a balance in all things, too. Most believe in survival of the fittest, though, and only the strong survive. Perhaps to sacrifice his own life for the Draco, prepared to sacrifice his own life for the Draco, Obtu ventures into Lycia by way of transport ship. He made his way to the Cardinal Realm and established contact with thriving Draconian tribal settlements in that realm. From this point of operations, Obtu began to teach the ways of the Draco, converting humans into followers, sending with him an exotic drug, eventually known as Soma. The intentions of the Draco were clear. Their eventual takeover of Lycia was well planned, and with the use of Soma, it didn't look too far off either. Soma had the ability to control the person using it utterly and completely, turning them into mindless slaves. Obtu began in the Cardinal Realms, converting underhanded merchants and its inhabitants into followers. Soon a cult of followers grew up around Obtu, and as more followers came, his influence grew. He was soon moving into Protean as well. Eventually, Obtu had a tight hold not only on the merchants, but he also had control of imams as well. Most of the merchants were controlled by Soma, but not all of them. The ones who actually weren't controlled by the drugs and still traded with Obtu did it out of pure greed. As time went on, Obtu was finally captured. Not in time, though. The damage was already done. Zuthra's enemies were close at hand, and the final episode of his kingdom's demise was within sight. Obtu was placed under close supervision of Zuthra's faithful sentinel guard within the lower levels of the Divine Palace, close to both the sentinels and Zuthra himself. But as I mentioned before, this was only the beginning of the end for Zuthra. Ilubu was from an unforgiving planet within the realm of Protean and had to survive in underground tunnels in order to survive. Ilubu was from an unforgiving planet within the realm of Protean and had to survive in underground tunnels in order to survive. She was honored by the act of becoming the wife of an Overking, and she didn't really have much for a future on the planet of Lucius, where she came from. Senti was a beautiful blonde huntress who was desired by every man who encountered her. Marriage wasn't that big of a deal to her. The hunt was of more importance. Besides, her people were the honored guard of the Overking themselves. So becoming the wife of an Overking only seemed logical to her. These two wives loved the idea of being queen to a certain extent, considering one was a huntress and the other a Cistercian maiden. Tiana, though, was from a world that was harsh, whose society was ruled only by women and saw no value in men other than reproduction. Men in her world were nothing more than a subspecies, so becoming queen infuriated her. She vowed vengeance on Zuthra for what he had done, swearing to herself that she would be avenged for the treachery that was done to her. As Obtu was taken into custody, Zuthra had no idea that Obtu and Tiana had allied together against him. The moment of clarity comes to Zuthra when the reality of his wife's betrayal comes into light. Tiana was in league with Obtu and his cult of followers, preparing to move against Zuthra in an all-out assault on the throne of Lycia. The imams had been divided: the ones who were still loyal to the Overking and the imams who betrayed him. These were the self-proclaimed satraps, now working hand in hand with Tiana Obtu, and the Dracon. Merchants and warlords followed the assault on Lycia as well. The Imams, who stayed loyal to Zuthra, gathered their forces and quickly fortified the king's divine palace. Obtu was then subdued at this time and taken into the divine palace, where he was placed within its lower levels. The news of this uprising was swift, and there wasn't much time in which to act. Not all of the sentinels and imams were able to rally. It was too late, it seemed, for some, as Tiana and her forces had finally gathered and were ready to move on Zuthra and his forces. Soon mighty cities within Lycia began to fall, one after the other. Fires raged as flames fell from the sky from the assault. With help from the Draconians, the final assault and destruction of Lycia was swift. Warlords, merchant ships, satraps, and Tiana were able to move quickly through the empire effortlessly. Armed by the Draconians with battlecruisers, Tiana moved through the barriers between each plane with ease. As she did, Tiana and her forces destroyed everything within their path. Nobody could ever guess the amount of guilt and shame that Zuthra felt in those final hours as the enemy forces and his wife moved in for the final blow. With the death of so many of his people, all must have seemed lost for Zuthra. Now only crumbling remains of those great cities remain, but there is a twist to the story. The closest of the Imams, the more powerful ones, near to Zuthra, sit in the divine throne room with him. They devise a plan that Zuthra is forced to accept. With the sentinels who protect Zuthra, the palace, and the higher heavens of Lycia, the Imams transport them into separate planes of existence, created just for this higher heavens of Lycia, the palace and divine throne room. Zuthra is protected by the barrier created between these planes and the others. Yeah, see, I've got to go through and straighten up this. A lot of it is kind of that's why I needed to take a break from it so that I could look at it again. And I'm glad I went through and read up on this, seeing what it sounded like after I took my break, because I do know I have to go through and rewrite this out. Now, there was yet another twist to this solution as well. Obtu was in the lower levels of the divine palace, held prisoner and transported to this plane as well. So basically what happened was these loyal imams went and transported Zuthra, the divine palace, and the higher heavens of Lycia into another plane of existence separate from the other ones. But what they also did was I don't know, I should make it if they forgot or if they didn't know. I'm sure they did, but Obtu was held prisoner in the lower levels of the divine palace. So he was transported into that plane of existence as well. And he was okay. So through vision, Zuthra sees his people gathered up by the Draconians, like a herd of animals. They are used as food and genetic research done by the Draco, who are truly in power over what was once Zuthra's empire. He grieves for his people with tears that fall from his eyes into the pool of visions below. Shame and guilt shadow self-pity. As these visions enter Zuthra's mind, he covers his eyes and shouts screams of anguish for the lives lost. Tears fell from Zuthra's face as he pulled his hands away from it. The scene had all changed around him. The imams were toiling as they did before, and the divine throne room was as it was before the attacks began, and with the divine pool of visions below his feet. Zuthra soon realized that he had just had a vision, and all the things he had seen had not happened yet. Zuthra knew that these were visions of the future, though. He had seen visions about the future before, and was familiar with the emotions that he was experiencing at that moment. He not only knew that the events he saw were going to happen, but he knew that they would happen soon. Out of nowhere, familiar words from the nearby imam filled the room. The act of providence is in knowing of things to come before they happen. Sentinels were given the order evacuation of the terrorist capital of the Divines and the Divine Palace at once. Zuthra also ordered all major cities of all planets within the realms to evacuate too. After the evacuations, the terrorist capital of the Divine was then separated from the other planes of existence, like what Zuthra had seen in his vision. All of the people within the empire were told to evacuate. So fleeing in a mass exodus, the citizens of Lycia were scattered in all directions within the realm of existence. Forgetting Abtu was now a prisoner in the lower levels of the Divine Palace. So yeah, I made it to where they forgot that he was down there. Sent into the same plane of existence as Zuthra, who was in the Divine Throne room, while he was prisoner within the lower levels of the Divine Palace. Merchants loyal to Zuthra still assisted in the evacuation of Lycia, with passage aboard their ships. The deceived followers of the Draco remained, staying behind and waiting for their master's arrival. Zuthra made quick plans for the destination of his people, allowing them to flee to far-off places on the boundary of the known realms of existence, hidden away from the Draconians as well as possible. Places were established eventually where Zuthra's people could resettle and start their new lives. Routes of escape were kept open so that stragglers could someday find their way back to the people that had resettled in these far-off places. Interstellar battle cruisers were en route to Lycia as the invasion began. As they fell out of hyperspace, though, they were intercepted by the Draconian fleet, who had arrived first. Quickly they were destroyed as Draco forces began to bombard the planet of Lycia below. Thankfully, the cargo vessels full of refugees had already left on their way to safety in far-off destinations unknown. Zuthra remained within the Divine Palace and throne room, separate from his people, separated from all the other planes of existence, and waiting for the day when he will be able to return to Lycia and take back what is rightfully his. The cities of the Lycian Empire lay in waste, though the treacherous satraps remained behind to rule. Followers of the Draco stayed behind too, as the Draconians quickly seized power, placing Tiana on the throne, making her their puppet while they spin their sinister deeds. The Draconians had no wish to eradicate the human race, just the opposite. They wanted to enslave them. Genetic research soon began, and the followers of the Draconians soon discovered that they were betrayed too. Through gene splicing, the Draconians wished to mix their genetics with humans. This has always been the desire of the Draco since they first discovered the existence of humans. For generations, the Draconians had searched throughout the plains for genetically suitable specimens. With each failure, they left in their wake, destroying civilizations until they found humans, that is. Within their society, they hold genetically mixed beings at high regards. These creatures are looked up to from the regular reptilian Draconians. The dream of the Draconians to create a civilization that is someday mixed with human DNA, but that was a bit harder than what they had estimated. They discovered over time that humans are very cunning. While the Draconian admired human and Draconian mixed beings, they held little regard for humans themselves. Other than being useful in experiments, the Draconians used humans as a food source too. The human population that remained behind were turned into mindless slaves to do with as the Draconians wished. Some were used as cattle, while others were turned into unthinkable cyborgs for battle. Then there was the genetic research which took place, changing humans into all kinds of hideous reptilian mixed creations. Placing Tiana on the throne, they used human female slaves to communicate with her from a distance. The Draconians were capable beings, able to use telepathy as a way to communicate from a distance. All of the human slaves under the control of the Draconian could hear only their master and nothing else. Tiana began to fall further into the darkness after offering millions of her own kind to the Draconians as payment for what they had given her. Soon, all she wanted to feel was the pain that was given to others. It didn't matter if it came from males or females now. As time went on, the numbers of the Draconians' occupied areas became desolate. As time went on, the numbers of the Draconian occupied areas became desolate. As humans began to realize what was happening to them and others around them, they too fled to far-off places, leaving behind the nightmare of what they had experienced. Soon, Lycia became a desolate memory of a lost empire from long ago. This, though, is not the ending, but the beginning. Long after the Lycian Empire had fallen, the great houses still thrived. Many of the refugees who fled retained the lessons of their past and continued forward. Great civilizations began to emerge in place of the old ones, and soon there was a new world. Many things changed, but many stayed the same. These houses would be what was left of that which was before. The battle between humans and the Dracon persisted into the far future, too. The history of what the Draconians had done was passed from generation to generation. Humans knew of the Draconian plot and what they wished to do to them. As time passed, slaves fleeing the old lands of Lycia told stories of the horrors done. These are just some of the things to be told, and there is much more to be said. Zuthra still sits within the divine throne room upon his throne. Many cycles have passed, and he is still bound within a plane of existence separate from the rest. He sits staring down into his throne. He sits staring down from his throne into a pool of visions, watching his people thrive and grow. He sees the pain, the agony, and defeat
that his people have endured, and still he sits, watches, and waits for his moment to claim what is rightfully his. Alright, yeah, I need to go through and do some edits on that, but that is the first story that I did with this. So it looks like I have some issues with Twitch. I swear this stuff gets ridiculous on here. Let me see. I bet you anything it cut off. Yeah, most likely. Now I am checking everything, make sure it's still going. I did quite a bit of reading there, so I don't know for sure if anything's still working. So it doesn't look like any kind of activity is on the stream, so I'm good there. And it's like I said, I don't really want to do this for any other reason than just for myself, you know what I mean? But this is the story that I had set up, and I'd finished. I need to go through and I need to edit. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold off on doing Obtuse story and the Draconian plot, which that's what I wanted to do this year, and instead I want to focus on Tiana, starting with Tiana's story before delving into Obtuse can be an effective approach, especially considering, you know, a couple of reasons. You know, you have to think of the character's depth, you know, the depth of the story and everything. Introducing Tiana first, it'll allow the readers to understand her motives, struggles, and descent into madness, because she goes crazy, you know what I mean? So, and what I want to do is I want to make it to where she's literally from a society that are like a bunch of psychopathic women who torture and kill and enjoy bloodlust, you know what I mean? So I want to go into that area, and I want to kind of go in depth on it, you know, and kind of get into her going mad and stuff like that, and her eventual fall, and you know, the chaos and everything that's involved with it. Then I also want to, you know, also point out that Tiana's story revolves around ambition, madness, and power. You know what I mean? So if I explore these kind of themes early, I can set a strong foundation for the narrative, which makes it easier to weave into Obtuse story, and I can make it to where Obtuse story unfolds as I'm going through the story that Tiana is telling, you know. It also has to do with tension building as well, by establishing Tiana's internal conflicts and her relationship with her followers, you know, how they were starting to catch on to the fact that she was batshit crazy. I can create a sense of tension and urgency. This can carry over onto Obtuse narrative, especially as the two stories intersect. Because like, if you remember, Tiana allies up with Obtu to overthrow her husband Zuthra in the first story. So that their stories kind of intersect with one another, which I think will make good for the second short story. That's kind of one of the things that I do want to do. Now, starting with Tiana's storyline also allows for a seamless transition into Obtuse plot. Also, you know what I mean? Once Tiana's descent is firmly established, I can introduce Obtuse as a contrasting character whose ambitions and goals
it might conflict with hers, so now highlighting Tiana's story first, it sets the stage for a lot of broader implications because of her actions. Um, uh, Now, whenever I bring that up, what I'm talking about is like her actions do when it comes to obtuse plans. You know what I mean? How do they relate to it? And then the Draco influence. How does Tiana's actions relate to the Draco influence? Um, that's one thing. It has to do a lot with the narrative. You know what I mean? Making the narrative to where it connects the connectiveness. That's the kind of stuff I'm wanting to go for. So, I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do a prologue, maybe, or opening chapters. Start with a prologue or a few chapters focusing on Tiana's rise to power and her internal struggles, how she starts falling into madness and stuff like that, and then transition to Obtu. Once Tiana's character's arc is established, transition to Obtu's story, highlighting his motivations, goals, and and the dynamics between the Draco and Tiana's rule, things of that nature. And I can kind of interweave the narratives as the story progresses. I can interweave the narratives showing how their paths converge and influence one another. I think this structure will help create a more layered and engaging story. It'll allow readers to, connect with both characters while understanding their distinct motivations and conflicts. Because that's one thing about stories that's important. Conflict is very, very important. And that's one thing I want to focus on. Now, the thing that really I think is important is the madness and the power. Now, Tiana's descent into madness, it kind of serves as a cautionary tale, you know what I mean, about the corrupting nature of power and the fine line between rulers and tyrant. That's something that I do want to focus on, kind of bring that out, because remember, this is a plotted, this has a plot, you know what I mean. So yeah, I've never done that before other than these short stories. This is the second one I'll be working on, so I don't know exactly how that's going to work. I'm giving this a try for the second time, and as you can tell from the reading there, I had some issues with my spelling, so that means I am going to have to go back through and correct that and rewrite it. And there were some things that I've been thinking about that I need to really work on with that story as well. And I want to go back through and overlook it, or look it over again and see if I can make it into something better. Usually it's suggested that you write something, give it a break, come back and look at it again. That way you have a different perspective, and I think that's what happened here. I've been away from this story for about a year, and well, not really a year. I think it'll be a year in November, maybe at the end of November, maybe the beginning of December. And I went and I took my break from it, and I came back and I checked it out. So it kind of makes me believe that, that's what I need to do. I need to go back through and kind of check things out and change what I need to do with it. Come at it from a different look. At least I did all the hard work. I did the outline and the plot. Got everything written down, and that's the important thing.
The hardest thing for me is really writing the short stories that are like 10 or 11 pages. And that's hard for me. I do have to admit that. It's something that I really want to get better at and work on. Because like I said at the beginning of the stream, I'm not very good at that. I can sit and I can write a story 300 pages long with no problem. But these short ones are pretty tough. And you'd think that it would be the other way around, but it's really not. Now, I also want to kind of focus in on the bloodlust and morality, the moral decay that follows her obsession with bloodshed. You know, it kind of highlights the consequences of losing touch with your humanity. You know what I mean? Like becoming less human, which I mean, for me, I don't know. It's kind of weird because like her entire civilization, her entire culture, isn't really human. You know what I mean? They don't have that sense of humanity. That's the way I wanted it to be. I'm incorporating aspects from things that I've researched in like ufology and then role-playing games too. And like Tiana was an interesting character because what I wanted to do is introduce a character that was kind of like the Scourge Maidens, you know, off of Forgotten Realms or out of Forgotten Realms, and I wanted to make these women like the epitome of evil. You know what I mean? And it's turning out to be harder than what I thought because, like, first of all, she didn't fit into the story with the other wives, and then like Zuthra is supposed to be like this this almost godly being, you know what I mean? So, you know, things like that. And in my mind, that's how it started out whenever I started the story, but then things started changing according to it. And I had to, like, slim it down. I had a lot more plans in what I wanted to do with the story than what I could actually do with it because of how short it was, you know what I mean? So it's interesting. I do have to say it's very interesting. Now, also I want to focus on the isolation too. You know, Tiana's growing isolation. It reflects her inner turmoil and the inevitable rebellion of the people around her that arises when it's basically when a leader becomes out of touch with their people. You know what I mean? Like she just becomes completely delusional, and it's all about the bloodlust. It gets to the point where she doesn't even care about it being men that gets tortured. She just wants people tortured. You know what I mean? She just has an open desire to see freaking pain, basically, is what it is. So these are the things I want to do now. I will start up my second stream later on, and I will I'll start, since I've gone through and I've reviewed the old story and I've kind of told you what I want to do. I'm going to come back and I'll start out with the new open image. That's going to have to do, that'll be concerning the setting, and then I'll start working on that, or I'll have it set up. I've got it basically already, but I'll be able to present it with the setup, establishing Tiana's world, you know, and then like her rule and things of that nature, things that took place after the fall of Lycia. And I don't know, by the time I'm done with all of this, I'll have the first story rewritten, and I'll have this one outlined, plotted, and done with the first version of the story. It's just like last year's short story. It's not finished, you know what I mean? Like,
that's not the final version of it. You have to go through and you have to freaking rewrite, make sure the spelling's right, and things of that nature. And I never took time to do it in this time period, so that'll be something that I can work on and get it taken care of. And I will be back next week. I was able to pull off an hour and 12 minutes off of this stream. I also want to say again, thanks for the comment on the YouTube channel for Duncan Williamson. That was great. I'm glad that his granddaughter reached out on here and actually made a comment. This was a really, really good guy. He really was. If you guys ever get a chance to read his books, read his books. All right. Now I've done a few people on here, but I'll tell you right now, this is a good guy. He has good stories to tell, and you need to check him out. So, with that, I am going to start closing this stream out. I hope you guys enjoy. Later on, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and I'm going to edit this video and upload it into a final edit and have it ready. I usually never mess around with editing on the Twitch videos. I always get situations where the stream cuts off and starts back up, so I'll have like 4 or 5 different sections of it. So I don't even waste my time anymore. It's that crazy. So what I use, right now for today, the Twitch stream cut off into like 4 different sections, so what I usually do is I take this recorded version and I edit it and I make it out to where it's nice. And again, I do want to thank Mark from Frigate. That really drives me nuts. I'm gonna pop up Discord real quick so that I can actually get the name of it, because he did a good deal. I've been looking for something that I can use waveform in live streams, and to me this was a big find. So I do want to thank you for that. And it's Dragus Productions. That's where you find him. He's got pretty good shows. He's got Cafe Enigma, and he also has another radio show that he does. It's called Censorship Sucks. There was a new one that came out yesterday that I forget the name of the show, but it was pretty good too. So he's got some good radio shows going on, and he also streams them on Odyssey, Rumble, Kick, Twitch, and YouTube maybe. I don't know if he does YouTube. Now, that might be a no-no for him. I do YouTube, but I don't think he does. If you guys want to check him out, feel free to go over there, and I hope you guys enjoyed. And with that, I have reached an hour and 15 minutes. I think I have done a good job, so thank you guys for watching, and I will talk to you later.